Howdy, you Asmonites, what's going on? That's right, the time has come for me to predict my own personal top 10 films of 2009. That's all coming up right now on the Razman's Reality. Okay, so top 10 film predictions for 2009. Now, right before I get to that, just two quick updates here, because as some of you know, I set up an email address for this account because a lot of you subscribers out there don't like to comment, and I've been flooded with two questions which I can quickly answer. One is, Raz, why aren't you in HD? Don't you have your new computer yet? The answer is no. Hopefully it'll come this week. That replacement motherboard, that is. If I don't get an email update tomorrow, I'm actually going to be calling Gigabyte on that. And the other question is, Raz, what web camera are you actually using? Because it looks darn near HD, even though it's not. And that's the Logitech QuickCam Pro 9000. It's the highest end Logitech you can get. You can actually shoot close to HD. It's something by 720, but the only problem with that is that you only get 12 frames per second. You don't get the full 30 frames, which are necessary. So that's why I go in VGA resolution, which is 640 by 480 with this camera. And the second question that's tied in with that, so I guess technically there were three, sorry about that, is why has there not been any live shows when your credits say you stream on them? Well, those credits were made when I thought there was going to be live shows on a regular basis. There are going to be live shows, but it's all going to be guest oriented. Don't plan on ever doing a live show unless I can have a guest, and it's just me being able to be around when my guests are around. So just stay tuned here to YouTube and to Facebook and to Twitter to learn when the next live show will be. Alright, so top 10 films of 2009 in order from 10 to 9. At number 10, we have Race to Witch Mountain, which is a Walt Disney Pictures film starring The Rock, starring Dwayne Johnson, now formerly known as The Rock. And it's a movie about a guy who is a cab driver, and he gets these passengers who are two little kids who end up being aliens. And this is actually an adaptation of Escape to Witch Mountain, which was a big Disney movie in the 1960s and one of my favorites of all time. So if you haven't seen Race to Witch Mountain or even Escape to Witch Mountain, I highly recommend it because it's an awesome flick. Next up, we have Peter Jackson's new film, The Lovely Bones. As Civilian Snowman Jack pointed out, a lot of people have been skeptical about this film, but to me, anything Peter Jackson does is brilliant, and I'm well looking forward to seeing him return to something that's not quite so big budgeted, because we mostly know him now from the Lord of the Rings trilogy and King Kong. Next up, we have Terminator Salvation. Now, Terminator Salvation, I was a bit skeptical about because of the simple fact that I don't know if I can accept Batman as John Connor, but all my friends who've seen this film say it's loads better than Terminator 3, which was a pile of crap. So I'm willing to give this film a benefit of the doubt, and I will think I'll like it in the end, which is why I'm putting it on this list. Next up, we have the new Spike Jonze fantasy, Where the Wild Things Are. As Jack said, I'm a big fan of fantasy when it's done right. I disagree with Jack because I'm a huge Harry Potter and Narnia fan. and I think those films are done right. But I think with those, you have to read the books to really be into them. Something like Where the Wild Things Are, anybody can just jump into it, and it would be absolutely brilliant. So I can't wait to see it. Next up, we have District 9, which of course is the Peter Jackson produced film. I apologize, I can't remember the name of the director off the top of my head, but it's a new director that he chose, and the trailer looks just absolutely tremendous. And my friends who have seen the film, Greg Arganda and a couple of others, say it's absolutely brilliant. So I cannot wait to see it, and I know I'll love it. Next up, we have Avatar, which of course is a new James Cameron film. The trailer for this looks absolutely freaking fantastic. A little bit heavy on the CGI in the trailer. Whether or not the movie actually turns out to be that way, we'll have to wait and see, but the trailer just looks absolutely freaking tremendous. So I can't wait to see it. Next up, another one I can't wait to see, and it's brilliant just by association because it's a Quentin Tarantino film, and of course that is Inglourious Basterds. And you know, it's really curious to me, and I've said this to Jack and others who've seen the film. Here in America, Brad Pitt is the focal point of the advertisements for this film, and from what I hear, he's barely in the film at all. So that just strikes me as really funny. But yeah, Inglourious Basterds, Tarantino, enough said. Gotta see that movie. Next up is my top 3. Now these 3 could have easily all been number 1, but I just ranked them in this order because of personal preference, and I'll explain it. At number 3 we have Watchmen, which, as Jack said, a lot of people didn't like his movie because they thought, you know, slow, it was dragged out, all of that. But to me, the theatrical cut even could not have been more accurate to the graphic novel, which in my opinion is the second greatest graphic novel ever written of all time, right behind The Killing Joke. There can be no better graphic novel than The Watchmen, and the theatrical cut was incredibly faithful, so I cannot wait to see what the 5-disc director's cut is like. Haven't seen the 3-disc because I know the 5-disc is coming, so I'm purposely holding out on that one. And that's number 3 just because of a little bit of personal preference with these next 2. Number 2 is Star Trek, of course, the J.J. Abrams adaptation. It's a complete relaunch and revamp of the original show. In my opinion, absolutely brilliantly done all the way around. The plot line makes sense. Everything about the film makes sense. They used quantum theory, which was a way for them to basically start the show over again for a new audience that had never seen it. And I just think it was absolutely flawless. Not a thing I can complain about it with, other than, of course, J.J. Abrams and his trademark overuse of light. You know, the way he just is like, oh, let's shine a light in somebody's face because we're cool. You know, the bridge had a little bit of glossiness and shininess to it, but it also worked at the same time because I well think it was meant to portray the future. So that and the product placement are 2 small things, but other than that, Star Trek is an absolutely perfect film and absolutely belongs at number 2 on my list. And finally, number 1 is, of course, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Now, anybody that knows me knows that I am the biggest Harry Potter fan who's ever lived. Even ask me anything about the books, and I will be able to quote it and back it up with fact. I've read the series 8 times through. I've seen the film more times than I can count. I rebought the films on Blu-ray. I'm going to see the film in the theaters for the 3rd time. So, because my aunt's never seen it on Tuesday, at least if all things go as planned. So, it's just an absolutely brilliant film. And also, if you look at grossing, just from a pure grossing standpoint, Harry Potter is an all-age film. It's going to be seen by young kids, their parents, and their grandparents. I mean, it's just a generational thing, and I absolutely love it. Without a doubt, the best adaptation of any book. If you want to know my fleshed out thoughts on Half-Blood Prince, it was the first set of videos I did with this webcam. The frame rate was a bit out of sync because I hadn't figured it out yet, but I think it's still fairly watchable, so yeah, I'll link you to that in the description box. With that, I hope you've enjoyed my video response to Civilian Snowman. If by some miracle you're not subscribed to my pal, do so because he's absolutely brilliant. And as always, this is reality according to the Razman and Razman style. It's not just a catchphrase, but a way of life.